This is what I tell people. How much would you pay for a supplement that would be able to reduce the risk of breast cancer by 50%, prostate cancer up to 32%, decrease the risk of autoimmune disease by 50%, diabetes by 33%, and Alzheimer's 50%, respiratory infections 40%, improve sleep quality by 20 to 30, or prevent osteoporosis by up to 40%. So usually that sounds good to be true. But here's more. Increase libido and fertility by up to 30%. Psoriasis by 80. Reduce depression, anxiety, and seasonal affective disorder by 30. All-cause mortality by 38%. So does anyone here know the name of the supplement that might do that? It's a little bit more, but you're going that way. Dogs and cats naturally crave it. Have you seen that pets usually go and try to get some sun? Ancient cultures worship it. Hospitals during World War I were using it as medicine to treat wounds and to treat many diseases. So if there's a supplement so incredible that could do all that, why aren't we talking more about it? Maybe because it's free, and free things don't get that much marketing. Our current focus is basically not on trying to prevent or trying to really solve the health issues, but just trying to make the symptoms less, and I don't believe that's the best way to do it. And during the last 50 years, the media has been trying to make us afraid of the sun. And I was one of them because I'm from 77, so I grew during the 80s, and basically what they told you is try to avoid the sun because it will be bad for you. So that's the way I grew. But as I learned later, sun protection can do a lot more harm than good. There are many ingredients that were used during the 80s and 90s that now are banned because they've been proven to produce cancer, but you were wearing it. And then they say like, okay, sorry, we'll just remove it, and if you died from that, it's not our fault. And on the other hand, people are spending less time outside, and that's really bad because the time that we're spending inside is basically with artificial light that, I don't know if you know it, but it's not so good for your health neither. So might there be any correlation between having less sun exposure and all the increase in diseases? What do you believe? The good news is now we're having hundreds of new studies that are finally coming to prove that the sun is one of the best things, and I'm going to show you what are the different wavelengths of the sun and how much good they can do for you. So this is really interesting. In Sweden, they did a 20-year-old study that basically they wanted to prove how dangerous sun was for your health. So they wanted to prove, okay, people that take the sun will have more cancer, will have higher mortality rates. But to their surprise, they found out exactly the opposite. Basically, they found that Swedish women that smoked but took the sun had a lower mortality rate than women that didn't smoke and didn't take the sun. So the beneficial effect of taking the sun was greater than the damaging effect of smoking. So imagine something as great as that. Does it sound good to you? Here's another interesting number. This study says that insufficient sun exposure may be responsible for up to 340,000 deaths in the United States and 480 a year. And at the same time, most people are still afraid of the sun, but we have lots of studies that say this is not the case. And this is just a lot. For example, when most people think of the sun, they think about vitamin D, but there's a lot more. This is another story. Basically, regular exposure to sunlight contributes to the preparation of colon breast, prostate cancer, and non-Hodgkin lymphoma, multiple sclerosis, hypertension, diabetes. And if you go to your dermatologist, he'll say, avoid the sun. So why isn't he considering all this information? And before you ask me, yes, the sun does some skin aging, but all of the benefits that you get are a lot more important than that. So here's more information. I'm just showing you because people don't believe me until I start showing the different studies, but there you could go much deeper if you wanted to. Women with active sun exposure were 30% lower risk of having diabetes. The mortality rate amongst avoiders for sun exposure was approximately twofold higher compared with the highest sun exposure group. So do we have any sun avoiders here? Or all of you like taking the sun? Okay, I wanted to change some minds, but okay. Hi everybody, my name's Gutie. I've been an entrepreneur for the last 20 years, and I want to share you my experience because I used to be a sun avoider, but then I started changing my habits and my health changed, and it's been an amazing journey. Basically, I'm going to tell you my personal study. I studied economics, but then I decided to become a professional photographer because that was a lot more fun to me than just being on a desk each day. So I worked as an advertising for many years, but I like speaking on public. I like sharing my knowledge. So I started doing personal courses, but then everybody started writing me for other countries that they would love to receive photography with me. So I decided to make an online school. And I started it in 2017, and we got to 79,000 students worldwide in 42 countries. So it's been very fun because I've had the time to develop 37 online courses and 17 books. So photography has been my life. So it's very funny because my change has been from using photography to capture images and now photography for health. And the funny thing is that when I started hearing last year, because I've not been this too much, about red light therapy, at the beginning I didn't believe it. I said like, eh. And as a photographer, and the funny thing that I started using for my face, and I started seeing improvements in my skin, but I was like, nah, that can be so great. But what finally changed my mind is that I have a Shih Tzu, and she was suffering a lot from arthritis. So I said, okay, why not? I'll put the lamp there. And in 2 weeks, the pet was running. And I was like, ah. So there's a lot more to life. And with dogs, you don't have the placebo effect. So that's what really got me interested to trying to get to learn more. This is some of my photographs. You can find them at studiogutie.info. So it's been very interesting. So this is my personal story. Basically, I had a very dramatic divorce. It was even on the media. So I got depressed. I got my vitamin D crash. I got my testosterone crash. I got depression. So I do what we all do, and I went to the doctor. And basically, they got me recovered because I got on TRT. I did many things. But I didn't like the idea of having to be prescribed for the rest of my life. For example, when you're taking antidepressants, if you forget one day, you're like, you're feeling horrible. So I didn't like that I was even anxious to take the pill at the right time of the day, because even 2 or 3 hours and I was feeling bad. So I said, where can I find something natural that could help with my depression, that could help with my testosterone, with my vitamin D? And I love reading. I really, really love reading and researching. So I started buying different books in Amazon, and they all pointed to taking sunbaths. And since I live in El Salvador and our temperature is basically good and we have sun most time of the year, I just went out and did 30 minutes on one side, 30 minutes on the other side. And basically from the first week, I was just feeling more energized, happier, because, and I didn't know exactly what the mechanisms were. So most books nowadays point to infrared, and infrared does great things. But I also started finding out that UVB was also a great player. So here's my house. This is where I take my sunbaths. So this is one of my happy places. I have lots of lemon trees. And basically, it changed my life. So my story is that I wanted a machine that could give me those same frequencies of light when I didn't have the time, or when I didn't, or when it was raining. So I decided to try to make my own, because nobody was making an UVB lamp, as I'll let you know later. So everything is about light. Even the Bible starts, let it be their light. Who knows the three main types of light that we have? Any volunteers? Rowena? Well? Yes? Who said it? That would be, yes, the UV category. Visible light, the one we're having right now, and infrared. By the way, I'm part of the red light collective, so all of our members have red light therapy products. Okay, so the interesting thing is that most people believe that the principal type of light is visible light. But for example, if you take average during the day, you will find out that visible is just 35% of the energy. Ultraviolet at the right time, not at sunrise, because at sunrise you have mostly no UVA or UVB. But at noon, this is what it will look like. So 60% of the light is infrared. Visible would be 35, ultraviolet would be around 5. On the other hand, our lovely LEDs, the light that is with us nowadays, is basically 99% visible, and infrared, it would be less than 1%, and UV would be around 0. So this is not a natural type of light. And even, for example, in my case, I've come to remove my LEDs and start replacing them with normal incandescent light bulbs, because they are 10 times less efficient, but they have they're basically 90% infrared, and infrared, it's great for your health. So this is very interesting to me, because I remember when I was a kid and I went to the doctor or to the hospital, and they had those tubes, fluorescent tubes, that were very green light. I remember that after staying there for 20, 30 minutes, I started feeling like depressed with less energy, and I just had to go outside because the energy was really making me feel sick. I didn't know the reason back then, but it's basically incomplete light sources that can affect even the way that you're feeling. Has any one of you ever felt this with artificial light, and then you suddenly go out and you're like, I really needed this? Yes, that's what's happening nowadays. So artificial light and natural light are not comparable. You see here, it's sunlight, it's broad spectrum. And this, for example, just stops here at the 760. But that keeps going a lot. Then we start with the near infrared, medium infrared, far infrared, and below the 360, we still have more UVA and more UVB. But if you see LEDs, they're incomplete. They have a spike of blue. That's the worst thing that you can do if you're after 6 p.m. After 6 p.m., you don't need to see any blue, because that will kill your melatonin production. You will get bad sleep, and you know what happens rest. Fluorescent was even worse, because it has a lot of spikes. And incandescent was the warm light, not efficient light, but it was infrared heaven. So if you're able to still find one of those, because they made them illegal because they're too healthy for you. No, yeah, everything that's too healthy for you, like we have to ban that. Like I believe M&M that yes, they're basically making now that you require a prescription because it was too good for you. So what's the difference? LED lights are up to 10 times more efficient, but you don't have the UVA, UVB, or infrared. So that translates to a modern UV and near infrared deficient society. And so that's what I'm telling everybody. We're not just in a light deficient society because if you stay indoors, you're like 800 lux. You need to be at least 10,000. So your brain processes that you're awake and gives you all the chemicals. But we live in a UV and in a near infrared deficient society. Okay, that's an easy one. Who knows what is the most well-accepted benefit of taking sunlight? Vitamin D, of course. So that was the first discovered benefit. Vitamin D, it's actually not a vitamin, but a hormone. And they thought it was a vitamin because they found it in cod liver oil, and they found that if they gave it to humans, that they got better. And then they discovered that you can produce it yourself when you get a UVB on your skin. So basically, according to different studies, around half of all Americans are vitamin D deficient, but that's taking in consideration the levels required for calcium. But if you want to get most of vitamin D benefits, you don't need to be around 30, but around 60 to 100. So if you get how many Americans have vitamin D in the right levels, that will be less than 5%. So imagine how bad that sounds. And the problem is that United States, it's basically all above latitude 32. And if you live in latitude 32, it doesn't matter what you do. Most time of the year, you won't have enough UV. And for example, here in Phoenix, you could get great UV today, but you will be burning. So in winter, no UV, and in summer, too hot. So that's complicated. In my country, it's a lot better because we have the beach nearby, and usually all weather, it's like a medium warm, but never too hot and never too cold. So that's a lot better. And this is very interesting. If you see this table, these are some of the molecules that your body produces when you're exposed to UVB, and vitamin D, it's just one of them. So if you believe that vitamin D was the best thing that the sun did for you, here are a lot of different molecules that I'm sure that are going to be discovered, the different benefits. For example, has any of you measured their vitamin D lately? You? What was your level? I think it was at 32. 32? Okay. That sounds more like everybody. Everybody should be at least 40 or above, and most people are around 15. So that's... With me taking IM injections. Okay. Okay. Oral vitamin D is good, but as you'll see later, most of the benefits attributed to vitamin D are really other byproducts of UVB. So they discovered that because they started giving oral vitamin D to patients, and they didn't get the same benefits that UVB was reported. So now many people say that you should consider your vitamin D levels as your measurement if you're getting enough sunlight, but not as a measure of how much oral vitamin D you should be taking, because even if you raise it with oral vitamin D, you will not get the same benefits. It'd still be great, but not as great. So here's an example. By the way, vitamin D triggers 3% of the human genome, so that's considerable. And here's what I was telling you about. Individuals with high serum vitamin D levels have a reduced risk of hypertension, cardiovascular, metabolic syndrome, yet multiple trial data show that oral vitamin D supplementation does not affect these endpoints. So I believe that in 5 years, people will know more than vitamin D is great, but it's not causing most of the benefits that most people believe that it does currently. So who knows what other benefits taking sunlight can give us? Rob?
I'm not going to spoil for the class.
No, that's helping us. Okay, you? Okay. What? Yes, testosterone. That was one of the things that I discovered. And for example, there's very interesting, if you look worldwide fertility rates, the closer people live to the equator, higher testosterone levels, fertility rates. So sun is good for love. So, okay. So here are one of the benefits. I'm going to start with the red and near infrared. If you have not used that or if you have not researched it, please do, and you'll be just surprised on how much it could do. So enhance cellular energy production. So basically, your cells, when you're born, they have lots of energy. Their mitochondria works perfectly. Then as you age, they lose energy. Getting the near infrared basically gives cells more energy, so they have more energy than just to survive. So they start doing again all different processes like making collagen, making you look more beautiful. So reduces inflammations, improves skin anti-aging, muscle and wound recovery, also production of structured water, intracellular melatonin. That's an interesting one. Most people think of melatonin as produced only in the brain, but they found that 90% of you pronounce it melatonin or melatonin? Okay, melatonin. So 90% of melatonin is actually inside your cells, and its production is increased when you get infrared. And that's one of the body's biggest antioxidants. So another reason to get the sun or another reason to use red light therapy. So many experts are starting to consider that lack of near infrared would be the equivalent of the scurvy of the 20th century. Because as you see, most of the diseases nowadays are metabolic diseases. And something as simple as taking a walk early in the morning or walk at the evening could give you the infrared to start reversing those diseases. Okay, and now we go to the UVB benefits. How are we doing with them? We're doing good. Can any of you tell me any benefit attributed to UVB? Vitamin D. Testosterone. Okay. Well, first we talk about UVA benefits. And it's an interesting thing because once you start getting inside the rabbit hole, you will start learning loads of things. For example, when I developed my product, I thought that UVA was just skin aging, and I didn't know all of the different health benefits. Luckily for me, now I know that UVA is one of the most important things to get your nitric oxide. So basically, there's been studies that people that just get regular sunbaths just have a better blood pressure. So one of the best medicines, if someone wants to get their pressure down naturally, would be to take sunbaths, so you get your UVA. Also stop using fluoride toothpaste and mouthwash, and eat more foods with nitrate like beets. If you do that, you could lower your blood pressure totally naturally. But also neuropsin stimulation, that would be the circadian rhythm. Melanin, getting a tan, that's great nowadays because we're surrounded every minute by non-native EMF, and that's killing us. So the higher your tan, the more protection you have against non-native EMF. So that's a good one. The UVA goes deep. That's the bad side. So UVA contributes to skin aging. So for example, in my case, I protect my face with mineral sunscreen and also my hands and also my neck. But the rest of my body, I just try to get as much sun as possible, and then instead of wearing sunscreen, I cover. That's the way I do it, because you want to balance getting the sun's benefits, but also you don't want to age that fast. And the UVB, it helps with a lot. And I'm sure that in 5 years, they're going to know at least a lot more benefits than they do now. For example, in my case, when I started developing my lamp, I had no idea of all the benefits that I knew today. For me, UVB was basically vitamin D, testosterone, and serotonin. So for me, that was it. But now it's been proven that one of the reasons why the microbiome is getting less diversified nowadays is by lack of UVB. So you get more sun, your microbiome gets more diversity, and you know that your gut basically affects everything. Also helps prevent weight gain, increases testosterone and libido, improves sleep. Would any of you want better sleep? Would any of you would like better libido? Is libido or libido? Okay, I'm still... Okay, help prevent multiple sclerosis, vitiligo, psoriasis, improve memory and cognitive function. So just by looking this, for something that you could get for free, just getting more sun exposure, it's basically nonsense not to start doing it. So, sounds too good to be true? I thought that way. I thought like, nah. So that's what I like doing research, and also I like proving things in myself. When I see a new supplement, I try it and see how it makes me feel. And for example, with sunlight, have you ever taken a sunbath and that night you slept better than you have done in a long time? Any of you? Yes, that's the intracellular melatonin, and also that's getting your circadian clock the way it should be. Lots of light during the day and darkness at night. So here's something interesting. This study proved that LEDs in the right wavelength can basically produce vitamin D a lot higher than the sun with a lot less radiation in a lot less time. So this is one of the studies that I used to develop my product. Here's something very interesting. They tell you, if you don't want cancer, don't go to the sun. And look at this. Basically, the closer you are to the equator, the less cancer rates that you have. So that's very interesting. And remember, I'm going to give you the presentation at the end so you can start going deeper the rabbit hole. Want to prevent weight gain? They found out that with UVB, your appetite goes up, but you stop gaining weight that fast, so it prevents weight gain. So that sounds good to me. So the funny thing is that I always say to my friend, have you ever seen a fat surfer? And that's the proof. Have you ever seen a fat surfer? No, surfers are skinny because they're getting early sunlight, they're getting a lot of infrared UVB, and they're being grounded with the best grounding there is, that would be the ocean. So, cardiovascular disease and weight gain. UVB helps that too. It helps limit diet-induced weight gain. Metabolic syndrome. That's a big one nowadays. So UVB helps. And there's the number of the study, so you can go deeper. UVB versus type 1 diabetes, and that's a very interesting one. One of the reasons why diabetes type 1 has spiked, because kids nowadays, they're all day with their iPad, indoors, artificial light. And what, for example, my mother did to me when I was a kid, she took me out to take sunbaths, and I was playing with my friends in the streets when I was young, but nowadays it's all the iPad. So, diabetes type 1. Rheumatoid arthritis. Get more UVB, and you can prevent it or make it less. Microbiome, that's one of the most important ones. So, basically, if you want better microbiome, you should be eating fermented food, of course. That's incredible. Kimchi, for example, sauerkraut. but also if you get more sun. And it's not the same sun in the morning as in the evening, as I'll let you know. Better testosterone and libido. Better sleep. UVB versus autoimmune diseases. And that's a great one. And basically the pathway, and here look at the bottom. In this way, UVB mimics the mode of action of effective multiple sclerosis therapies such as Gilenya, Mycet, also known as the S1P receptors. So you have the cure just by going outside. And I would say differently. These medicines mimic what the sun does, not reverse. Multiple sclerosis, so also UVB. And I believe that just in the United States, there are like 3 million cases of multiple sclerosis, so that's a big one too. So all autoimmune diseases can be linked to IBS, and IBS is directly linked to a lack of vitamin D, and this can be linked to a lack of sunlight. So basically, when you raise your vitamin D, you have less permeability in your intestines, and that helps. Yes?
I was just wondering about lupus. I know a lot of people with lupus who break out in a rash when they go in the sun.
Yes.
So how do they benefit from the sun if that reaction happens?
The interesting thing, and I really don't understand that, but for example, current recommendations by current doctors tell you to avoid the sun if you have lupus. But there's one, how do you call the big, there's a Nobel Prize a doctor won by proving how you can treat lupus with sunlight. So why is there a Nobel Prize from like 50 years ago? Now the recommendation is going it against. So I believe the problem is that people avoid the sun every day, and then they take too much. So the problem is not the sun. The problem is that their bodies are more sensitive, and they should start doing it little by little until they start getting the benefits.
Do you think that rash or that reaction is like a kind of like a detoxification and they need to kind of work through it and let it?
Yes, I would believe, for example, in a case as that, as for what I have read, first get your vitamin D levels orally to around 100,000, and then start getting sunlight little by little, so you start getting used to it. Because if you get the vitamin D to optimal levels, you will naturally be protected when you start taking the sun. So the problem is that it's a circle. You avoid the sun, have little vitamin D, and then when you take the sun in cases like lupus, your body is not prepared. So maybe first get it high, and then start getting the sun by little.
So I think with lupus and some other diseases, the medicines that people take to help manage the symptoms make them photosensitive.
Yes.
So it's not that lupus by itself is so photosensitive.
Okay.
But part of what we're doing to manage symptoms makes them more photosensitive.
Yes, and when you get more photosensitive, you cannot take the sun, and it's just a cycle, so you never get healed. Yeah, that's medicine nowadays. Or, for example, depression, and to me, that was one of the best things. We all have heard, for example, of seasonal affective disorder, lack of sunlight getting in your eyes. And, for example, my father lives in a sunny country, but he is almost all the day with his iPad. And when he goes out, he just uses these super dark sunglasses, and he's like, I'm feeling depressed, I don't have energy. And you say, like, go outside, take the sunglasses. So even if you live in sunny places, that doesn't mean that you'll be taking use of the sun. So depression for me, when I'm feeling down, I go take a sunbath, and I can definitely feel the boost within 1 or 2 hours. Vitiligo, also autoimmune. So most of the diseases that UVB can help are basically autoimmune diseases. If it's autoimmune, sun, vitamin D. Psoriasis. Has anyone, if you have a friend or family that has, Yeah, so more vitamin D, more UVB. Also, red light helps a lot with skin disorders. So it's not just like talking UVA or UVB or infrared separately. It's all basically, nature doesn't make mistakes. So if we evolved millions of years with all those different wavelengths, basically we evolved to take advantage of them. Cognitive function and memory. UVB helps. Also, infrared helps. There's a great product from the collective for improving your cognitive function with the infrared. Ceretrive, great product. Also, want to lower the risk of cognitive decline in the elderly populations. And what's the solution? Go out. So how to reap the sun benefits naturally? Start slowly, build your solar callus, take a vitamin D test. If you're too low, I recommend first getting the supplements and then start getting the sun, because if your vitamin D is low, you'll be less able to get the sun. Avoid using sunglasses, because that inhibits your body of triggering the mechanism to start producing melanin. Start early in the day when the sun rays are easy and full of red light therapy. So this is a great one. Avoid seed oils. So a lot of the photo aging is due nowadays because basically our diet is 90% seed oils, and that's causing a lot of oxidation, and that helps with this burn. So I've heard many people that stop taking seed oils, and 1 year later they can take the sun without getting burned so easily. So the problem is the seed oils. Also, one great supplement is astaxanthin. That will help your skin. Also, it helps to make your skin more receptive to sun, beta-carotene, lycopene, resveratrol, selenium, zinc, omega-3s. Those are great. And if you're going to be taking the sun or vitamin D, also magnesium. You need magnesium to use the vitamin D, and the K2 to take it to your bones. So it's different things. And remember, you'll have the presentation, so you have all this information. Here's astaxanthin. I've been taking it. Even I have tried to give it to my dog, and in 2 months, she was her eyesight improved so much that you'll be amazed. So astaxanthin, if you have eye problems, can do wonders. This is one sunblock that I bought from a guy that we see in many different shows. It's great because it's natural, it's mineral, so you don't get all the chemicals inside your body. And this is basically the sun cycle. In the morning, you have your red light therapy, your infrareds. At mid-morning, you have UVA, but not too much UVE. And at noon, basically, you have all of them. So if the sun never goes too high where you live at that time of the year, you will not get in UVB. And this is basically what you see in color, the places on Earth where you could get enough UVB if you go outside. Because even in my country, the vitamin D levels are really bad, even if we live basically in the center. But if you live on the gray area, taking enough UVB naturally will be complicated because you don't have it in winter, or maybe it's too hot in summer. Or maybe you work all day. Yes?
Does red light increase your D also? Like if you're in those places and you're using red light, does that help increase your D?
I didn't understand. Can you repeat?
Red light therapy, does that help increase your vitamin D?
No, it doesn't. But it helps protect your body against the UVB, so you can take more sun. So if you get a red light, you can produce more. And also, what happens with the near infrared, it makes your skin thicker. So when you have your skin thicker, you have more space for the production of vitamin D. So that's why one of the reasons where vitamin D peaks at 20 and then it starts going down, it's because of skin thickening. So in a way it does, because it gives you more skin and thickness, so you can make more vitamin D. But you need the UVB. And this is, yes, the sun method. Basically, the sun method, what you do, start from your knees below, taking the sun, then from your waist down, then from your shoulders down, and then from your head. And that's what they used to do in hospitals during the World War I. So these are the conclusions. Nature doesn't make mistakes. Humans do. We're just beginning to understand all the different pathways and how sunlight can affect positively our health. Many of new modern diseases can be attributed to lack of sun. We really need to spend more time outdoors. And the benefits of regular exposure outperform the dangers associated more than 60-fold. So yes, when you get the sun, you're going to maybe have a chance of getting some type of cancer, but it's going to improve many other cancers, and it's going to lower your mortality rate so much that basically it's 60-to-1 benefits versus dangers. Vitamin D supplementation is no substitute for taking the sun. All of you should go and get tested, and many of you will be surprised. Try to aim from 30 to 100. Vitamin D levels should be a biomarker of how much sun exposure you're getting, not how much you should be taking. And basically, our skin is an endocrine organ, and exposure to sunlight creates many more molecules than just vitamin D. So all we need is to go early and take a 30-minute walk with as little clothing as possible to get the infrared, and then just 15 minutes at noon would be enough if you have the sun very high. If you live above latitude 32, you're going to have problems getting the UVB. For example, Phoenix is latitude 33, so even here, it's not that easy, as I told you. It's either too cold or too hot, and in winter you don't have enough UVB. And why did I call the presentation vitamin UBV? Obviously, UBV is not a vitamin, but it makes so many molecules and benefits in your body. It's like taking a vitamin. So this is what the options were if you wanted to have home access to UVB, the spurting. It's good. The problem is that it's missing the infrared, and this is the product that we're making. It's basically red light therapy plus UVB in a compact format. We're there in booth 107 if you want to get more information. So it's basically like a red light device and also red plus UVB, because UVB should never be alone. That's when the problems come. It should always be with the red light. Here's all of the different benefits compared. We have a floor stand. We have a show special. Actually, we got it higher to 15%. So you can come and visit us. And any questions you would like to have, to make?
Go back to the QR code.
Okay. Okay. This is for the presentation. That's the good one because you get everything there. Yes, I'm a photographer, so I take the pictures myself. And the funny thing is that a photographer is very frustrating because you're always getting the best pictures of everybody. And when you travel and you see your pictures, it's just like, so that's why nowadays I just take a selfie, because if not, I'll be mad with the pictures they're taking from me. Any questions? Yes?
I have a question regarding red light therapy. If somebody's on, like, say, autoimmune medications that make them photosensitive, or like tetracycline, is that a contraindication for them to do red light
Usually, red light therapy, it has no problem with photosensitivity. The ones that affect photosensitivity would be the UVA and mostly the UVB. So with red light, no problem with photosensitivity. Mhm. And also, red light is amazing for the skin. I've been using it for 1 year, and I've taken pictures recently. And when I see it with my pictures 5 years ago, I look younger now than 5 years ago. So it's amazing. So it has tons of benefits. So skin is usually the one that you could most easily see, but it goes really deep. I'm 47, by the way. Any more questions? Okay, so thank you very much. I hope that you learned a lot. Exact 10:45.